Welcome to episode 273 of the Very Sunday Podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio, beautiful campus of Grace College and Grace Theological Seminary, by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is already preparing to buy Mets World Series championship merch, John Scott Sloat.
The season's already started, or the season's getting ready to start. I suppose there were a couple games in Tokyo that technically counted.
Yeah.
But the season is upon us.
And you've got your MLB pass all queued up and ready to go.
Matt, I've been watching spring training games. So yes, I am ready to go.
Okay. All right.
I am ready to go.
Yeah, hope springs eternal for John Sloat.
Yes. We're going to be good. We're going to be very good.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just cannot bring myself. I would think back when I was a kid, I did enjoy baseball.
What changed? Was it the
I just think
steroids?
I just got more interested in other sports, in basketball and football.
Mm.
And so that kind of overcame that, and now that I'm older, I just feel like there's just too much.
Too many
baseball. Games. Too many games.
It's the soundtrack of the summer, though. You put it on the radio, on the background. Great to have it on a low volume, read a book, sip some iced tea, let the grass grow.
You're a big fan of the grass growing.
Have
you started your spring lawn care routine?
No, that begins right around tax day.
Okay.
You got to put down some crabgrass preventer. Otherwise, you get yourself in trouble with a bunch of crabgrass. So that's coming down around Palm Sunday. I think I'll put down my crabgrass preventer.
Okay. All right.
You want to get it before Easter.
Yeah.
Usually.
Do you put fertilizer down for anything else in the yard? Some just mulch. You're a mulch guy, aren't you?
So I was in our last house. We had a lot of mulch, but in this house we have a lot of rocks in our flower bed, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
But the inertia to keep things the same is pretty strong in my world. So we'll probably put some more rocks down. We'll probably plant a few new plants, things like that. But no mulch. Fertilizer comes in probably a little bit closer to Mother's Day. And then, summer's so hot that the grass here doesn't do well in the heat. So you just leave it alone June, July. Mm-hmm. And then September, you throw down the heavy fertilizer. Mm. That's where you throw down the stuff that's really going to make that yard sing. And then October, you throw down your winterizer, get you some good deep roots for winter. That keeps the grass green through the winter. Mm. And then you're pretty good to go.
Well, if you would like to contact the show and get more lawn care tips from John, you can find us on X at VNSPod. You can email the show, variesandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. And we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating on whatever platform you access the show.
We just want you to leave something.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. All right, John, let's talk a little sports here. This is a fun time of year. Obviously, what's leading the headlines here is March Madness. So as we record on this Monday, we are down to the Sweet 16. And no real huge surprises, right? What's the lowest seed that's still cooking here? Trying to find that. Let's see here. So,
Arkansas?
They're
Arkansas at 10?
They're 10.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, last night you almost had Colorado State. They're like a 12?
I think that's right, yeah.
They almost knocked off Maryland. But a pretty chalky tournament so far.
Yeah.
So not too surprising. And also, in addition to it being chalky, very power conference heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So all power conference teams, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So SEC, Big 12, ACC, and Big 10. Basically, that covers it. So yeah. Let's see. So, how much did you watch?
I watched a handful of games.
Yeah.
My winner in my bracket was St. John's.
Wow.
I went with the hometown team.
Oh man.
Plays in Madison Square Garden.
That's brutal.
And I watched that game, and after that game, I was pretty dejected.
Yeah.
And I've lost faith. So I'm sitting 39 out of 45 in our bracket challenge, and so
That's my usual dwelling spot
yeah,
down there.
We've
Yeah.
flipped. I'm normally like in the top half, within striking distance of mediocrity. And now I am dismal.
Yeah, so I am tied for 16th. So again, early stages, a lot of bunching, right? So
Yeah.
the current leader in the clubhouse is
Yeah, who's winning? I haven't checked that out.
Blake.
Blake, really?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
I didn't realize soccer players understood this stuff.
Yes, indeed. I think in second place is my oldest offspring.
I believe so. There was one bracket I wanted to bring up. Let me see if I can
Based
find
on the name of the bracket or what they
the name of the bracket. Let me see if I can find it again.
was it perhaps my younger sons? Was it a Bible verse?
No, it was your younger son's wife.
Ah, yes. That would be
The name of the bracket is the number one Harmon.
that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's spicy.
She comes right into the family and she is taking charge. Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things that we appreciate about her is that she
She likes to mix it up.
she likes to mix it up, though currently she is sitting in 25th.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the name has nothing to do with that. But the name was just, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it's going to bring my oldest offspring such delight that he is in second, well ahead of his brother.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's going to be I'm sure there's been some text exchange going on there.
I will point out my father-in-law is tied for 9th, along with I guess he's my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law's husband, Samuel.
That counts.
Yeah, he's tied for 9th as well. They're both destroying me.
I think we should affirm that it's good to see that you recognized that is your father-in-law's bracket.
Yeah,
there was an issue last year.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Was it 2?
Yeah. Well, he put his name down as David. I'm just like, who is David? Because he goes by Dave.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure he's listening.
Okay. Well, glad to see you've. Well, I mean, I guess my younger son is in 9th, so still a lot of basketball to be played.
Is that Amos 4:3 there?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what verse is that?
That's the one about being cast to Harmon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my standard cheating/plagiarism verse that you don't want to be cast to Harmon. Just like, even though scholars don't know what that meant,
is, yeah,
it's clearly a bad thing. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like it feels like a lot of the games have not been that close.
Yeah.
I mean, one exception was the game played last night where Maryland beat Colorado State on a buzzer beater.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I did not. No.
A lot of debate online about – so Maryland hit a shot literally as the clock expired.
I did see the
– a lot of debate about –
travel.
Yes.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
I see the controversy.
Did you see the clip?
Online,
Yeah.
this morning.
Do you think it's a travel?
Probably by the book, yes.
Yeah.
By how it's called in game, probably no.
Yeah, I mean it's the in the NBA that is technically not a travel, even by the rules. I mean, I know they don't even enforce the rules as they are.
Sure.
But it's called the gather step, right? And so it's that gather step is legal in the NBA according to the rule book. It is explicitly not legal in college basketball.
But do they call it in college basketball?
Well, that's the thing. They have not been officiating it that way. So I don't know. This pushes me into the realm of being the old
back in my day.
Yeah, and the
guy.
Get off my lawn. But like, it is a little revolutionary if you can take an extra step.
It changes the game significantly.
Yeah. So anyway,
it just blows my mind how it's still the college game is so interesting to watch, and the NBA game is so hard to watch.
Agreed.
I just don't understand.
Well, but I think from my perspective, I think part of it is that it feels like so much of the pro game is ISO and maybe a ball screen thrown in there. It feels like when you watch college basketball, there's a lot more diversity of offenses being run.
Yeah, there's a variety of systems.
And so it's basically, and a lot of NBA games feel like they devolve into long three, miss, transition, long three, miss, transition, long three, make. Transition, long three. Like there's just so much of the three-point shot in the NBA. As compared to in college basketball, it feels like there's a lot more diversity of offense. You see more guys with mid-range games.
Yep.
And you see just different types of players. It feels like in the NBA there's like three types of players basically.
Yeah.
In college basketball there's a whole range of guys that you're like, now that dude's got an interesting game. Something I don't see very often kind of thing. Like, So anyway, I think that feels more entertaining to me at least. So okay. Speaking of college basketball, sadly, our own Grace College men's basketball team lost in the Elite Eight.
And we were texting during that game.
Yeah. I mean, a terrific season. They are the only team in the NAIA to have made the Elite Eight the last 3 consecutive seasons. So, I mean, sustained excellence.
They're pretty good.
Last year they made it to the Fab Four.
The Fab Four.
They don't call it the Final Four because apparently that's trademarked by the NCAA.
Yeah, so is
I'm sure Elite Eight is. So it's they technically call it the quarterfinals.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
The word madness attached to the third month of the year is also.
Yeah, though there is a
is there a court case pending?
Well, no, there's one of the conferences. It's like a mid-major conference. They play their conference tournament championship in St. Louis, and they call it Arch Madness. And apparently they can get away with that.
Interesting.
But, so Grace loses a tough one by 2 against the number 1 seed Arizona Christian in their bracket. It's a game, honestly, that, was neither team managed to get up by more than like 5 points either direction. Just very close and competitive. And Grace ended up losing because they gave up too many offensive rebounds. That was the killer.
Yeah.
But a great competitive, hard-fought season for them. And given how they started the season and given what they lost from last year's team, a terrific accomplishment to get back to the round of 8.
Yeah.
So
you lost 4 starters last year.
Yes, including a guy that is playing D1 ball. 3 guys that played D1 ball this past year,
and one that was the player of the year.
Yes, the national player of the year for small college basketball. So the fact that they got back was impressive.
Yep.
We hinted at baseball in the Open, but
opening day this week.
Yeah, what day is that this week?
Thursday.
Okay. Is that earlier than normal?
It's normally the last week of March or the first week of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's already been some games in.
They're doing this weird thing where they want to have they want a couple games in Tokyo.
Yeah.
To showcase their Japanese players.
Yes.
And so they just get on a plane and they fly over there and they acclimate over there, and they play the games early enough so that they can fly back and acclimate to West Coast time.
Yes.
And so it was Dodgers Cubs, I believe.
Have the Mets ever participated in this?
No, we play in London. So we've gone to London and played a short series. I think that's usually West Coast teams they take to Asia, and
Makes
East
sense.
Coast teams they take to Europe.
Makes sense.
If they do something like that. But they have them do the Europe one like in the middle of the season.
Yeah. But if you're coming from the East Coast, what is that? I mean, it's probably like a 6-hour difference.
Yeah, probably.
In the summer because we jump ahead and they don't. And so about 6 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Which, again, not ideal, but yeah, that's it's something. I suppose. Is there any interest in baseball in Europe? Like, I get that there's absolutely interest in Japan, for sure.
Yeah, there must be. They keep going over there to play games. They play at Wembley Stadium, and it's packed out. So I
But is
think
that just expats?
Maybe.
Americans in exile trying to catch a taste of Americana.
maybe.
So, all right, with your Mets, what do they have to do to make this grade it out? So if they don't make the postseason, is that an F?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the postseason is a bare minimum.
Okay. Let's say they make the postseason and lose in the opening round.
Like the wild card round.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a big disappointment.
So we're talking like a D.
Yeah.
Low C maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. What do they have to do to get an A? Do they have to win it all?
No, I think
Do
they
they have
have
to get there? Do they have to get to the World Series?
I think if they got to the NLCS and had a hard-fought series and lost, I think I'd be okay.
All right.
I think I'd be like, this was a good season.
Okay.
I think that's where I'd be.
All right. Okay. So what is your actual prediction?
I think, like, how far they go in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, that assumes that they're making it. So your prediction is yes, they will make the playoffs.
Yes, that is my prediction. They will make the playoffs. They have a really tough division. There's 3 teams that are very, very good in that division and have
Braves, them, and
Phillies. So I think they make the NLCS.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they make the National League Championship. I don't think they win it all.
Okay.
I think that crown may be reserved for a team in Los Angeles.
I mean, again, baseball is such a game where there's disparities in terms of what teams spend. And so the Mets are in that stratosphere where the Dodgers are. Yeah. And the Yankees. And the Red Sox, right? The Red Sox are pretty big spenders, or they may be a notch down from.
I think they want to be seen as big spenders, but aren't.
Okay.
Same thing with Philadelphia. They want to be seen that way, but they're not. Kind of like those cities want to be seen as New York, but they're not.
Okay.
In my group chat this morning with a Yankees fan was complaining about the Mets spending $700 some odd million on Juan Soto, and I told him he was bitter.
I see.
And
Is that the same person that named their bracket? Wasn't there someone who named their bracket?
I don't know if it was the same person. No, different person.
Okay. That took a shot at Juan Soto.
And it took this guy like a few days to respond to my bitter comment. He responded this morning, and I almost shot back like, well, not all of us can be big market teams. You know, the Bronx, that small market up there.
I see. Yeah, I was trying to find that. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Anyway, well, we should jump into our main topic today.
Okay. Before we go further on this?
Yeah, I think we're done. Okay, so today's main topic, we are talking about cultural Christianity. That's a topic that's come up occasionally, and so there's an article that we'll link to from the Gospel Coalition. It is by
I never heard of him.
Tiago Silva. I'm guessing that's how you say that first name, Tiago.
Okay.
Apparently he is a pastor in, let's see here, down in Louisiana. Okay. So he wrote this article for the Gospel Coalition on Cultural Christianity, and it is entitled "The Good, the Bad, and the Inadequate." Okay. So, I mean, our article, our discussion won't necessarily be bound by this article, but this is kind of a launching pad to some degree, right? We've talked about culture.
Yeah, we've talked about even this topic.
So how would you explain what cultural Christianity is?
Well, I think according to him, it's that the broader culture has seen a lot of positives from Christianity. You know, you get somebody like Joe Rogan coming out and saying positive things about Christianity. Or you get, as he points out in the article here, Elon Musk saying positive things about Christianity.
Or even Richard Dawkins.
The guy that wrote The God Delusion.
That's right.
Saying positive things about Christianity.
Yeah.
Tom Holland, the historian, not the actor.
Yes.
I don't know what the actor's feelings are about Christianity.
I don't either.
Saying very positive things about Christianity, but not believing it.
Correct. Essentially believing that Christianity has a positive influence on culture, that it's a good thing for Christianity to have influence on culture and to do some shaping of culture.
Yeah.
That they want to live in a culture that has been shaped by, broadly speaking, Christian ideals and Christian values.
And I think there's another bucket you could put some thinkers into, and maybe a Ross Douthat falls in this. He just published a book that talks about, even if you don't believe Christianity, you should still go to church.
He's Catholic, right?
He is very Catholic.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes. Very, very Catholic. And I think David Brooks might have a foot in each of those camps, right? Where David Brooks, I'm not quite sure if he believes Christianity. He certainly thinks it's good.
Yes.
But I'm not sure he thinks it's true.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Depending on the day.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion, especially as you see these more and more prominent figures saying these things like, even if you don't believe in Christianity, it's an overall positive thing that our culture has been shaped in certain ways by it.
Well, Tom Holland is kind of known for this in his book Dominion, talks about, and he's a Roman historian. That's sort of his lane.
Yep.
And he has a book that says, hey, I cannot explain where all of these ethical considerations come from except Christianity. So, and he points to slavery. He points caring for the poor. All these things ultimately boil down to like the big difference for Tom, how the ancient world changed from this brutal place to the sort of the ethical framework that we know and really like is Christianity's influence in the world, but doesn't believe it either.
Right. Yeah, I think it is a fascinating shift that has happened in the last, I don't know, 5 years?
Probably 5 years, yeah. I think Dominion's 5 years old. Yeah.
I mean, that puts it right around COVID, right? I mean, COVID was 5 years ago. But
do you think so for these guys,
you're talking the Tom Hollands, the Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, for these guys. Is it a good thing for them to see and value Christianity?
On the whole, I would say yes.
Is it sufficient?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So is it worth having them is it a good thing, or would you rather have them just be opponents and be very, very clear? Kind of like Dawkins was.
Yeah. Well, I don't see. I think all of those individuals are different because they openly say, "I don't believe it."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not a follower of Christ.
Right.
And so they're clear about their own personal belief.
Although Tom Holland's had a bit of a change. I don't know if you've been following this, but Tom Holland recently got a cancer diagnosis. Did you know this?
No.
He got some kind of cancer diagnosis. Went to a Anglican church and was praying and prayed for healing, and went back to the doctor. Cancer's in remission, and so he's had something of a religious experience.
Okay.
And so I think the story's still being written about where he ends up.
Sure.
And it could be right where he currently is and, his training at, Oxford, Cambridge, whatever one of the two British universities he went to ends at. But, it's at least interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't think Dawkins is going to end up there.
Wouldn't seem so.
Just looking at the history of Richard.
I mean, from a purely human perspective, yes.
That's right. From a purely human perspective, yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, would you – to me, it comes down to this. Would I rather live in a culture that's been shaped by Christianity, even though there's a large chunk of our of that culture's population that do not personally believe it? Would I rather live in that culture versus a culture that's had very little exposure to Christianity? And the answer is, well, yes, I'd rather live in because I think the benefits of living in a culture that's been shaped by Christianity are significant. And I think the people who question that often probably haven't had a ton of exposure to other cultures that have not had that sort of profound shaping by Christian values and Christian ideals.
Yeah.
And so on that level, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, what about you? Would you?
Oh, goodness. I think it depends on, what's going to be best for humankind and best for human flourishing. It's probably living in a culture that's shaped by Christianity rather than one that's not.
Okay.
I think I believe that to be true. I think for evangelism, it's a little bit more tricky.
Perhaps.
You get a number of people who think they already know Christianity.
Right.
And think they are
true.
Redeemed, saved, born again.
That's right.
And I'm not so sure they are. Oh,
yeah. It certainly calls for a different kind of evangelism typically than I feel like I experienced this even being on staff with Campus Crusade back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, in some ways, it was a lot easier to have a spiritual conversation with someone who openly would acknowledge, I'm an atheist, or I think I'm agnostic, don't really have much background, as opposed to somebody who had enough exposure to Christianity that made them know a little bit of the lingo, and having to weed through that. Oh yeah, I prayed a prayer when I was 6. Okay.
What's happened since?
Exactly. Yeah. And so having to try to help them see what genuine Christianity looks like.
Yeah.
Certainly can be more challenging.
Yeah.
For sure. But
so I think there's a third category though. So I think there's the totally doesn't know what Christianity is, isn't shaped by Christianity. There's the shaped by Christianity and knows it's shaped by Christianity. And then there's kind of this third category.
Which is the like the Elon Musk, the Tom Holland.
Has like the husk of Christianity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of
is very much appreciative of the benefits of Christian influence in a culture and society without personal commitment.
Yeah, I do think there's I think what I'm trying to describe is a little bit different. Like they they just think what we have is what we've always had. Like, here's what I'm thinking about. Do you remember doing evangelism on the University of Canterbury in New Zealand?
Sure. This is in New Zealand in 2019? Yeah, it's been 2019.
No, it had been 2017.
2017, that's right. That was the first mystery trip we did, yeah.
So I remember having 3 of virtually the same conversations. And it was, hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions? Let me ask you these questions about, sort of eternal stuff.
Spiritual interest.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Let me tell you about Jesus. And they are engaged. They are shaking their head along, and they just go, yeah, no thanks. I'm really not that spiritual. Don't really care for that. I think we all just need to be good people. And it's kind of baked around Christianity, right? This sort of ethics that they all have, but they don't understand that they have it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another kind of cultural Christianity.
Almost a secularized version of Christianity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and in a lot of ways, I think that's what, at least, I think what Dawkins would argue for is some sort of secularized version of Christianity.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, a Dawkins argument boils down to living in a culture where morality has largely been shaped by Christian ideals is preferable to living in a culture where it hasn't been shaped by Christian ideals.
Yeah.
Even though I don't believe it, even though I think there is no such thing as God, even though I think it's, not true, I'd still rather live in that culture than in one that is, and this is part of the irony of his position, rather than one that's been shaped by
his own thoughts
and ideas. Yeah. So, but I mean, in one sense, though, isn't that's been an argument that Christian apologists have used for a long time.
And it's coming to roost.
In terms of when we talk about morality and you reject Christianity, you end up borrowing from us to form your moral system. And if you have to do that, doesn't that show the illegitimacy of your own system, basically? Yep. And now you've essentially got someone like Richard Dawkins coming out and implicitly admitting that.
Yeah, he would not say that in those terms, but
correct.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not true, but I want to live in a culture where
people think it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
My goodness. Yes.
So
fascinating. Another guy that's right there on this. Oh my goodness, what's his name? The Madness of Crowds. That book.
Oh, Haidt? Jonathan Haidt?
No, that's not Haidt. It's a gay British man.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I'm also blanking on his name.
He writes for the Free Press now.
All right, let's get on this thing called the internet.
This is great content right here.
Yes.
We can't remember something. Let's Google it.
Yeah. So that is let's see.
I know it went on. I'm gonna
Douglas Murray.
Yeah, Douglas Murray.
Yes.
Yes, he's very much the same way. He calls himself a cultural Christian. I've heard him refer to himself that way in interviews.
Okay.
That, hey, I realize I've grown up in a Christian culture and I appreciate it. I just don't believe Christianity is true.
Yeah. So we've already kind of highlighted some of the potential dangers of cultural Christianity. You get people who think they're Christians and are not, and it can make it more challenging to distinguish genuine Christianity from some sort of sanitized or secularized version of Christianity.
Sure.
Any benefits? What are the benefits?
A common moral framework,
okay.
A common understanding of humanity and what it's capable of and should be for, an understanding of the family, I think, comes up in this as well.
Yeah.
We kind of mentioned this, but understanding what is moral, like is slavery moral, is, what is right, what is wrong. Shared holidays, Christmas, Easter.
There you go. There you go.
Would you add anything to that list?
I mean, I think that pretty much captures it. But I mean, there's a sense in which it's funny how, for years in the world of sort of like evangelism, you had people saying, okay, so when we think about doing evangelism in certain parts of the U.S., like the Northeast or the Northwest, highly secularized areas,
sure,
that those kind of people need to essentially take their lessons from overseas missionaries, people who are going into cultures that are completely foreign to them and taking it more of a learning posture and can't assume any starting points and have to kind of build those, which I'm not criticizing that. Now there's a sense in which we might be in a position where in certain areas we need to start learning from people who've been doing evangelism in the South, where there's been cultural Christianity that's been – and the Midwest, most of the Midwest I would say as well. And saying, okay, what do we need to learn from people who've been deep in the heart of the Bible Belt for years and having to distinguish between no, that's just sort of cultural Christianity niceness down here.
Yeah.
That's not genuine faith. Where good people go to church. That's what they do.
Yeah.
But do you believe in Jesus and trust him?
Yeah.
And follow him? So I think there's a sense in which that shift might be happening to some degree. Not that it's replacing the other one. It's just becoming more complex.
Yeah. And maybe this is a show topic for another day, but I can't help but think I think one of the struggles I have in the opportunities I do get to evangelize is just the apathy that comes along with spiritual things. I just don't understand or know how to fight against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
and that may be another show for another time.
Well, I think part of what explains it in my mind is Charles Taylor's work on the immanent frame. In other words, that this idea that the frame of reference for our culture is what they can see and what they experience, and they've lost a sense of transcendence. And so even when you talk about religion or you talk about Christianity, it's difficult for people in that kind of context to get outside of that immanent frame and think of a transcendent frame of reference in terms of relating to God himself.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, I think I'll end it in terms of my last comments on this is I think that the rise of cultural Christianity provides both opportunity and dangers. And as Christians, we need to be alert to both of them and know how to speak to both of them rather than falling into the either or of, woohoo, this is awesome, this is great, uncritically, or, oh my gosh, this is terrible, this is awful, like, what are we doing? Like, well, I think it's more complex than that.
I'll take your comment one step further.
Okay.
Every cultural moment has its opportunity and its challenges.
Sure. I just see a lot of oversimplification in people's responses. It's sort of it's all bad or it's all good.
Yeah, right. In this present moment.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes. It's all bad or it's all good.
Absolutely, 100%.
So,
all right, we ready to press on forward?
Yeah, we'll put a link to that article in the show notes so you can kind of check that out. But
even though we barely talked about it.
Yeah. But time now for This Day in Sports History.
All right, This Day in Sports History, March, is it the 24th? Fifth.
Yeah, I didn't update that. There we go.
I knew the date this week, so I was at least close.
Yeah. I mean, you could have just added 7 to what's there.
I could have, but as listeners remind me, math is not my strong suit. 1967, the 29th NCAA men's basketball tournament, UCLA beats Dayton 79-64. Bruins center Lou Alcindor later named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, tournament most outstanding player.
Yep.
1972, Chicago Blackhawks. Bobby Hull becomes the second NHLer to score 600 goals with a goal in Boston assisted by his brother Dennis.
How nice.
Dennis Hull doesn't have the same ring as Bobby Hull.
You think you might go with Denny, like Bobby and Denny.
Bobby and Denny, I like that, yeah. 1992, brother, ICC Men's Cricket ODI World Cup. Melbourne Cricket Ground, Australia. Pakistan beats England by 22 runs for their first trophy. Player of the match, Wasim Akram. Pakistan, 33-18 and 349s. I think I got the names right there. Did I?
I think you did.
Yeah. Proud of myself. 2004, Auburn's Fred Busquet
Sure.
breaks the world record in the 50-meter freestyle at the NCAA Men's Swimming and Diving Championships. Teammate George Bavell of Trinidad and Tobago also shatters world record for the 200 individual medley in 1 minute, 53 seconds and some change.
I mean, anytime we can work in a reference to Trinidad and Tobago, I feel like we kind of have to.
I think anytime Trinidad and Tobago pops up in the Olympics, you have to root for them.
Yeah.
I think it's human nature
Yeah.
to just root for them. Part of cultural Christianity, if you will. 2010. Daisuke Takahashi. I don't know how I did there.
I think that's good, yeah.
Yeah. Gives Japan its first men's title at the World Figure Skating Championship, and he does it with flair, attempting a rare quadruple flip. Canada's Patrick Chan wins the silver for the second straight year, and France's Brian Joubert takes the bronze.
Okay.
All right. Who do you like?
I mean, I'm tempted. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously we're ruling out the cricket.
Yeah, cricket's off the table.
I mean, it feels like we've done Kareem Abdul-Jabbar / Lou Alcindor probably multiple times before.
Probably,
by now. Which leaves us with either
Swimming.
the swimmer Fred Busquet,
I have no idea.
or Daisuke Takahashi, the figure skater.
Well, or Bobby Hull.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could do Bobby Hull.
Who do you like?
I mean, I'd probably lean towards, I don't know. I don't know that I have a strong inclination here. I mean,
When was the last time we picked a hockey player?
I don't know, but I knew that's where you were going.
Yeah, that's avoid the figure skating, avoid the swimming. Let's go hockey. Freeze that water.
Bobby Hull it is. One thing you liked.
All right, I am going to I've switched since the start of the show. I am going to bring up the place where I bought my fertilizer this year. I believe it's called Milan Feed and Seed in New Haven, Indiana.
So we're just giving out free advertising here.
Well, let me tell you what happened.
Did you at least get a discount?
I think so. So I walked in and bought my early spring, my late spring, my early fall, and my late fall bags of fertilizer.
Okay.
All at the same time.
All right.
I think I paid half what I would at Home Depot or Lowe's.
All right.
And I went in and they had pictures of the bags on the wall. And I looked at the woman there. I'm like, how do I get these? And she goes, well, you pay for them here. And then you go through our drive-thru. We'll load them in your car for you.
Hey.
And I did that. And it was a great find, relatively inexpensive,
Okay.
and a wonderful experience. And it's good to buy local.
All right.
So Milan Feed and Seed, I think is the official name. I'll look it up while you're doing yours.
So why Milan though? Like, is that a family name or something? Because I hear Milan and I'm thinking
Italy. Milan Center, Feed and Grain. I have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't ask. It's sort of like if you walked into like a local hardware store or a more local tractor supply company.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the vibe.
All right. Nice. I'm going to go with a podcast that I listen to regularly. It's called The World and Everything in It. And it is done by World Magazine. It is a weekday, every weekday. So Monday through Friday. Episodes are usually around 30 minutes. And so it's a great blend of, they start with headlines, here are the basic kind of big things that are happening. And then each day has a set of different segments, including like Mondays are probably my favorite days because they do two segments I really like. They call one of them is called Legal Docket, where they discuss throughout the course of the year, they discuss every single court case that appears before the Supreme Court.
Ugh.
And gives you like, here's a summary of the case. Oftentimes they'll give you little snippets of the oral arguments with the lawyers or with the justices asking questions. And then they also, if there's notable court cases going on in like district courts or that sort of thing, they'll cover those as well. And then on Mondays they also do a segment called Money Beat with a guy named David Bahnsen.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've met him, but I have seen David and listened to his podcast. Listened to his podcast.
And so, it's a weekly sort of here's what's going on in the economy and how to think about interest rates and job reports. And
do you think we could bring him to campus?
I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay.
I mean, you're the one that's got to find the money for it.
Yeah, I like David a lot. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it off air.
Yeah, I agree. And that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked about some March Madness, some baseball season almost underway.
Opening day.
On the cusp.
Get your hot dog ready.
Yeah. We've talked about cultural Christianity. We have talked about Bobby Hull, and let's not forget his brother. We're going to call him Denny.
Denny Hull.
We have talked about, it was the Milan Garden Center, is that right?
Milan Feed and Seed.
Feed and Seed.
Milan Center Feed and Seed.
Okay. All right. In New Haven?
Feed and Grain. Feed and Grain. Milan Center Feed and Grain.
In New Haven.
New Haven.
Okay. We've talked about the world and everything in it. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. So all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.